Everybody, welcome in Patriots Mock Draft 4.0 on the Patriots Beat podcast. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth with you as always. And Alex, today we got a chance to hear from head coach Bill Belichick, his annual pre-draft press conference. Bill Belichick doesn't usually speak at any point earlier on in the offseason, even when there is a combine. So this was the first time that we heard from Bill since the free agency frenzy, since all the moves this offseason, and he spoke about the draft, not obviously in detail about any specific prospect, but he did say some interesting things that I think we're going to use tonight in our mock draft to sort of look too much into all of this stuff as we normally do, read between the lines, and try to come away with what exactly he was getting at. The first thing, which I believe was a question.
Well, do you want to pull the draft down so we don't spoil what we're going to do?
Oh, good point. Good point. All right. So the first thing was a question by Ben Volen, I believe, of the Globe, asking Belichick, how much stock are you going to put in the 2020 tape, given the pandemic, given the situation that we had this past season where everybody's playing in-conference games. Some teams played a full season. Some teams played half a season. Ohio State and Justin Fields, for example, played, 6-7 games this past year.
Yeah,
Alabama played an entire year's worth of games in the SEC and then the college football playoff and national championship. So I thought that it was a very interesting answer from Coach Belichick that he feels like there's a bigger emphasis going into this draft for them, for the Patriots internally, on the 2019 season. And I think what he felt like was that the leaps that we saw from certain players, and one tweet pointed out that maybe he was talking about guys like Zach Wilson, for example, who really improved dramatically from 2019 to 2020, given the circumstances, given the opt-outs, everything that we all know about that happened with the pandemic, maybe not as telling as it would be in past years when guys make those big leaps. Coach Belichick still did say, hey, guys improve year to year, right? And there's still improvement that we have to trace, but we feel like apples to apples comparison, 2019 tape is a little bit more accurate to, let's say, the 2018 class or the 2017 class. If we're going to stack those classes together, it'd be more accurate to go off 2019. The other thing that was interesting was he was asked by Phil Perry about value and just sort of looking at, okay, maybe we have Phil was asking specifically about quarterbacks. Bill said that this applied to all positions. Let's say we have a guy graded in somewhere in the back end of the first round, but he's at a position where there's a big drop off, right? So if we don't get him here, then we're not going to be on the clock again in time to get him later, then we're already going to be off into the lower ends of the spectrum at that respective position. So both of those things pointing heavier emphasis to the 2019 tape where everybody had a normal season. And the second thing, certainly quarterback value, I think, is going to play a role here where they might look at it and say, okay, if we don't trade up a little bit to get Justin Fields, if we don't take Mac Jones here, the next guy on our board is Kellen Mond, who we have rated as a third or a fourth round pick. And he's going to be somebody that we're going to have to then entertain at 46 because we didn't get our quarterback in the first round, or whatever equation you want to go with. What were your biggest takeaways from Bill today, though?
Yeah, so I thought he gave a really good answer just kind of on the strategy of it, not so much of the players themselves, but once that information is in from the scouts, once they have all the reports in front of them, it's how do they navigate the draft itself in terms of how do you prepare for each pick? How do you know maybe when to trade up, when to trade down, all of that. I personally find that fascinating. That's my favorite part of the offseason is not the scouting, but the draft itself and how teams maneuver, how teams plug and play with that. And then, of course, as I tweeted about, he mentioned as a hypothetical, maybe there's a player who you thought was going to go at 6 or 7 and falls to 12 or 13, and you talk about trading up. Those are pretty specific numbers for a hypothetical, Bill. And I know he said that he was picking them at random, but
you did throw that in.
You ever talk about something and it's kind of in the back of your head and you maybe let it slip? So I choose to read the tea leaves here. Look, it probably means nothing, but it's the silly season. Let's indulge ourselves with that. I think they've had serious discussions about trading up. Now, 11 and 12 is probably too low for a quarterback. Frankly, if the guy's falling to 11, you're going to move up higher than 11 to get him, right? If that makes sense. I think even if it's the Patriots, they're not going to let one of those top 5 guys fall that far. But I do believe they're having serious discussions about that. Now, again, whether it's for quarterback, whether it's for a lot of people suggested potentially Micah Parsons, that's another conversation. But I thought that was interesting that he actually put some numbers on the table, which he traditionally doesn't do.
Right. Sometimes when we get into these conversations with Bill, he'll say, okay, well, we're picking at 31, so there's no way that we're going to trade up to 3. Right. That's totally off the table. Today, he sort of set parameters for what I feel like would be something like a small trade up if the right guy starts to slip.
I think he kind of established, because he mentioned trading down too, and he mentioned the 20th pick. And I think they see 10 to 20 as their range. They want to pick somewhere between 10 and 20. And where that ends up being is going to be dictated by a number of factors, a lot of which we won't know until we get to the 10th pick. They won't know until they get to the 10th pick. But I don't think they're locked. I think they are far from locked into that 15th pick.
Yeah, and just to reiterate again, connecting the dots between his two answers of putting a heavier emphasis, on the 2019 season for these prospects, knowing what they all went through in 2020, and then also coupling that with the conversation about the trade ups. And if a guy that you thought was going in the top 6 or 7 falls to 12 or 13, maybe we start to have these conversations. And that's something that I think is really interesting, because Trevor Lawrence is a lock for number 1 pick. Zach Wilson's probably the lock for the number 2 pick. And it kind of feels to me like he sort of doesn't understand the hype around a guy like Zach Wilson, who had an okay 2019 season and had a superb 2020 season. And I think that does apply in a lot of ways. And we talked about this before we started recording, to Mac Jones as well, right? That Mac Jones, after the 2019 season, probably looking like somebody that's like a 2nd, maybe 3rd round pick. He has a Heisman caliber year for Alabama last year in a weird year. And then all of a sudden now he's in the conversation at 3 for San Francisco. Those guys that made those types of significant leaps, I'm not saying that the Patriots wouldn't take them at 15, but I think that maybe we can rule out, based off of what Belichick said, a trade up into the top 5 picks, for instance, or something like that for a guy that really starred just last year. They really want a guy that was also good in 2019. And a lot of people that you talk to would actually say that Justin Fields was even better in 2019 for Ohio State than he was in 2020. And obviously Trey Lance's only season as a starter for North Dakota State was in 2019. So if you want to really look into it, it kind of puts those two guys a little bit higher, I would say, in the Patriots rankings than necessarily what, Mac Jones or Zach Wilson might be there as well.
I agree. And it kind of, as we get into this draft now, that's the strategy tonight, Evan, if you want to pull up the board. So we have this board here. It took me forever to get this with the simulator on PFF. The idea was that we wanted to play with is, in the prompt for tonight, is let's see what happens if Justin Fields falls. Now, you see Lance there at 3. Reports right now are that's Mac Jones. The whole thing that we wanted to discuss, that can be whoever. It can be Lance or Jones. For the point of this exercise, we're going to jump in with the 7th pick, and Justin Fields is still on the board. And that's where we want to go. And Evan, we've been in this spot before. Last week, we tried to trade up. 4 quarterbacks went early. We tried to trade up for the 5th. We thought we could wait one more pick. We didn't get him. And the first pick we did, we wanted Trey Lance at 7. We couldn't get him there. We thought maybe, him and Fields were on the board. The Lions will probably take Fields and move down to 8. And we moved down 1 pick, and we didn't get the guy we wanted. So I would say, let's go for this. Let's get aggressive. Let's do what we need to do to get Justin Fields right now, because I don't think we can meander with this. I don't think we can bargain with this. But if a guy that talented gets to this point, I think it's worth giving up what you got to give up to get him.
Yeah, and I think that really what the biggest thing that I took away from Belichick's press conference today was really about that value conversation that he had answering Phil Perry's question about how, look, we might have Justin Fields, and Mike Lombardi talked about this. He said the Patriots aren't going to have Justin Fields rated high enough to trade all the way up to 4 to draft him at 4. But let's say they think, projecting wise, that Justin Fields is going to be worth the 7th pick in the draft someday. A year from now, they're going to look back on that like the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes and say, we made a great pick here. So let's say value wise, they think that Justin Fields down the road is eventually going to be worth that. And if they feel that way, then they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, the drop off from Fields to Mond is so significant, or Fields to Trask, however they have it rated in the second round, that this is worth it to us because of the drop off. Now, the other thing that he mentioned.
Let's keep in mind too, because you mentioned the ranking there. That was said before what Bill said today. We talked about how Bill felt, right? What he said about the 2019 tape. I think that they have Justin Fields as their number 2 quarterback on the board. If you can get the number 2 quarterback on the board at 7, I think they'd see that as value, especially in this draft.
Right. And the other thing that he mentioned was that the guys that have really been at the forefront of the Patriots draft process, who are Dave Ziegler, Elliott Wolf, and of course, Matt Groh, their national scout. All 3 of those guys have now seen Justin Fields throw in person at a pro day or at his second pro day the other day, along with Josh McDaniels. So Josh McDaniels, Matt Groh, Elliott Wolf, and Dave Ziegler have all seen Justin Fields at this point. That's the only quarterback prospect in this draft that you can say that all 4 of those guys have attended a pro day for in person. The other ones, Belichick himself is at Alabama. I don't know how much we put into that. It's Nick Saban's pro day. He's probably going down there to hang out with his buddy anyway.
That's a pleasantry at that point.
Right, exactly. So I don't know how much stock we actually put in Bill actually showing up to Alabama to see Mac Jones, who did not have a very good pro day, by the way, throwing the football against air for whatever that is worth. So let's make this happen. Let's start.
Yeah. So let's 15 minutes in. Let's get into it. I do see people saying. Fair enough. Because you were late. I do see people saying, try to hold on to the 46th pick. And remember when we traded up last time, or we didn't trade up here. We traded back into the first, and the draft got away from us. The difference is with that draft, we got a corner and a tackle. We got good players, but we didn't get the QB. I'm fine if the draft gets away from us if we get Justin Fields, frankly. I think at that point, it is
everything else is a little bit of gravy, and you have all those 4th-round picks.
Right.
Too, that we can package together like they did last year to get back into the 3rd round, maybe take another guy in the top 100 that way. So yeah, I think that's the trade that you have presented.
So do we want to, again, we have four shots at this, I believe. Do we want to start with this conservative? I'll throw in one of these 4s because we're not going
to maybe we should. Yeah, I think that this. So the question really boils down to at this point, because I don't think that the Patriots are going to get jumped by anybody in the 7 to 14 range, or 8 to 14 range, I should say, taking Detroit out of this. The 8 to 14 range for the quarterback. The question is a team after them going to try to jump them, right? Is a team like New Orleans going to try to be aggressive, or a team, I'm blanking on all the teams after them that need quarterbacks
Washington.
Right now. Washington is a big one. Chicago, I think, still hasn't really figured out their quarterback situation, if I remember correctly, trying to keep track of all these offseason moves. So, yeah, that's the problem, right? Is you have the best pick on the table right now at 15 in terms of the top pick that you can offer, but you also have to consider other teams are going to be a lot more willing to give up multiple firsts into the future to get a quarterback that are a little bit more aggressive in the draft and past years and have a little bit more of a history of this. So let's try this and see if they'll take it.
Okay. And again, the other thing I want to point out, and somebody made a good point, we can always use some of those 4th-round picks to move up if we have to give up 46, but we'll try this one. There it is.
Wow.
That's easy. Let's ride with that, man.
That's easy. That trade right there, I think, makes all the sense in the world.
And you know what? We can trade 96 and get that second pick, that future second back, I bet.
Right. Seeing I understand that round 1, round 2 next year, it sounds like a lot, right? But I still feel like you're getting a lot in terms of this team is going to be ready to go. You know, you got Justin Fields now. We can take Justin Fields if you want. I'll wait
because then it's going to start rolling. But I do want to add too with that. You know, some people saying, "Wow, like this trade, like we were even surprised." This is why the trade, which trade was it? The second trade, not the big trade with the Niners. What was the other trade that got made? Oh, the Sam Darnold trade. Sorry, the Sam Darnold trade. Okay. This is why that's such a big deal. You were competing with the Panthers before, and that was going to be so tough to do. Taking that competition out, it lowers the price so much, and that's where a trade like this comes on the board. So let's I don't know, Evan. Kyle Pitts is still here.
Let's take our guy.
We need a quarterback. We need a quarterback that got plenty of tight ends. Justin Fields is in fact the pick at 7, and then I think this is going to be Mac Jones. It is. So that's all 5 quarterbacks.
Figure out this simulator, because
honestly, you could probably switch these two. If Kyle Pitts falls this far, you can probably switch so Kyle Pitts to the Panthers, and
clear that they're going best player available at 8.
Oh, and hey, Micah Parsons goes 15.
Oh, so we could have gotten Micah Parsons at 15. I know we did okay out there that would rather that than the quarterback that they feel is overrated, which is whatever. But
do you want to trade up beyond 46, or do you just want me to fast forward it?
I think at this point we just got to keep going, because we gave up those future picks already. It feels like at this point you don't want to get too crazy and too aggressive with it.
Okay, so here we are. I mean,
is very tempting.
Kind of a similar board to what we've had.
Right.
I mean, Jamin Davis is really tempting here. Are you a big Jamin Davis guy? I don't know if we've discussed him.
I'm concerned about Jamin Davis in terms, I think he's a good prospect. When I say I'm concerned about Jamin Davis, I mean, I don't know if they're going to think he's a great prospect because of his rawness right now against the run. He's a guy that is a prototypical 2021 NFL coverage linebacker, right? But he does struggle at times to get off blocks, to do the little things in the trenches that they're going to like. And I'm not sure if they're going to be super sold on his ability to be a stack and shed linebacker as well as playing coverage. So they've passed on so many guys like Jamin Davis in the past that are those coverage archetypes. And I don't know, maybe they'd look at it completely differently now, but I don't feel like they will.
So, okay, fair enough. I would say that we just invested a ton in a quarterback, right? Both our tackles are injury prone and on 1-year deals. Maybe we go with the tackle here. I don't think that would be a bad pick.
So Peter really likes Walker Little. I have hesitancies about Walker Little as well, because he has not played organized football in like 2 years. He played 1 game in 2019 at the beginning of 2019. So the tape that we are watching on Walker Little for the most part is the 2018 season, which is a long time ago at this point.
Yeah, we should have asked Bill about the 2018 tape versus 2019.
Right, exactly. So I'm concerned about that, because this is a player in Walker Little who has all of the measurable boxes checked: long, tall, good arm length, good feet for a tackle, but he has a lot of concerns in terms of his technique, and he's going to need to take some refinement and some work. And if you sat out for 2 years, that's only gotten worse, right? I mean, he's only gotten more raw, that he hasn't had those reps. So I really like Dylan Radunes from North Dakota State, and I wonder, the Patriots have probably been watching a decent amount of Trey Lance tape. Do they say, hey, Trey Lance is all right, we like Justin Fields a little bit better, how about this left tackle though? Right? You know, how about the guy protecting Trey Lance's blind side for the last couple of years? Dylan Radunes reminds me a little bit of Nate Solder coming out, in that he's really got tight end athleticism, somebody that can really move and has some really great upside with his athleticism. Yeah, he had played in a lower conference, but I thought he really dominated that lower conference, especially at the point of attack. Jackson Carman's a Trent Brown 2.0, massive human being, 6'7", 380, something like that. The safe pick here is Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame. Now, the Patriots have been a little bit hesitant on Notre Dame guys. They haven't taken, I don't think, a ton of Notre Dame guys at all under Bill Belichick. I had to look it up, but it hasn't been very many for whatever reason. I don't know. But Liam Eichenberg is the ready-made, chiseled, stout, not going to run through them, great people mover in the run game. He's a Patriot right tackle. He feels like a Patriot right tackle. So that's the skinny on the 4 guys at the top of the board right now. I think
I want to bring one other position in too. This is the conversation we've been having whenever it's our first pick, or if we take a quarterback or second pick. I mean, you got to look at, although most of the corners we generally like are off the board. I know you like Telvin Joseph. I really like Eric Stokes.
No, I think Eric Stokes is somebody that we could maybe get later on. So
I don't know. I keep talking. I'm going to look up what his average has been in the mock drafts and whatnot. I think he's going early mid-second.
Can scroll a little bit more. I can't scroll. You have to scroll.
Okay.
I just want to see who's the so St. Jude's there.
We can wait on. Yeah, these guys we can wait on.
That's right. So I really like Eric Stokes a lot for them as well. Do I think that Eric Stokes has Stephon Gilmore-like upside? No. But I think that he's got a really solid foundation about him. I think he's played a ton of football at Georgia, which is a Belichick pipeline of sorts as well.
I think so. I'm curious. So you mentioned the Gilmore upside. I think, is it safe to say he might have J.C. Jackson upside?
Yeah, I mean, he tested a lot better than I was expecting. He does not play like somebody that's that twitched up on tape, but at his pro day, he tested extremely well. And I think he's somebody to me that has very good foundation, very clean technique right now. Doesn't ever look like he's overmatched. He never panics. He's a press man corner who's got experience in that scheme, playing a lot of man coverage. And again, he's just somebody that's played basically, I think, almost 3 full years as a starter for Georgia. So he's got a lot of reps under his belt. He really knows and understands the game and knows what he's doing. I would love to see them be able to get Eric Stokes at some point in this draft. I wouldn't take him over the tackles. I wouldn't take him over Randunes, and I wouldn't take him over who's the other tackle that we had there at the top at blanking, Liam Eichenberg.
Well, so I'm just saying though, like, right, there's 4 tackles on the board. I feel like Stokes is the only corner on the board now we're really excited about, and we still need to consolidate.
We can trade back, I suppose, and try to add a pick next year. It's a lot. I think Stokes at 46 is a little bit of a reach.
I think some people are saying he's going to push the first round. Some people are starting to push him up there with Samuel.
I guess it depends on how much you put into these pro days, right? Because the pro day numbers are so all over the place. How much are we actually trusting these times that are coming out from the schools this year?
I'm just thinking, I think we can get Stokes here and then maybe trade into the 60s, use 96 and 120, trade into the 60s and get one of those tackles.
Okay. I mean, could we trade down a little bit and still get Stokes? That's my question.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Who's on the phone here? The next pick is 59.
Yeah. If we traded down to 59, I don't think he's going to go before a lot of these receivers that are on the board right now, or the tackles that are on the board. Jermaine Davis. I don't think PFF likes the simulator. Hates Jermaine Davis for some reason, right?
Yes. Yeah. Jermaine Davis is going to be there. He went like with the 4th to last pick last.
Right. So maybe if we trade back from 46 to 59 and try to steal another top 100 pick from Cleveland next year, like a 3rd rounder next year or something like that, to recoup what we gave up in the Justin Fields trade.
So you're saying 46 for, say, let me see here. I'm looking at the draft chart in the background. Which one did I just pull up there?
I would say I would try 46 and 59, and maybe they'll give us another mid-round pick, right? I mean, that would add up.
You're saying this, but we don't want picks. So like this, I don't think we're not getting that second back. I thought that was the goal. I
guess we could try.
Do you want to try it? I mean, I think they do. Let's bump this up a little bit. I think they do this.
Let's try that. Now we got Cleveland's going to be picking that. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
That Cleveland pick next year is in the top 100, right? They're not going to be a good team. They're going to be a fine team, I guess. But
they'll be a playoff team. But I get what you're saying. There goes Jamie Newman went before Kellen Mond.
Oh, okay. Well, 1 pick for
So there goes Eichenberg. But yeah, I mean, we're going to get a shot at all those tackles, and Eric Stokes is still on the board.
So I think we take. Maybe we take Stokes here because
I would take. I would take Stokes here. I like him better than all these guys.
Yeah, let's take Stokes here, and then we can scoop up one of these tackles at 96. Right. I think there's a lot of really good tackles. I think you can get a developmental guy. There's a couple of other guys that we haven't talked about I've watched recently that I think you can still get at 96. Spencer Brown.
So hang on, because the other thing we can do, even with Stokes, we're scheduled to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 picks right now, right? So 96, let's say hypothetically, 96 plus 139. That can get us up. We can move up to 80 if we trade those 2 picks. We can move up as high as 80. So maybe we pick Stokes and then we see which tackles come off the board. And once there's only one guy left that we want, we move back up to like 80 and get that guy.
Okay. Well, we also want.
Then if they make it all the way to 96, we can trade down.
I would also like to try to get a wide receiver at some point here in the 3rd or 4th.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Even if we trade 120, we still have 139. We know we can get good receivers later. So just to recap for everybody, by the way, we took Justin Fields first. We traded up for Justin Fields. We just traded down, picked up a future third. This is our second pick.
Right. So I think, so you're saying that we should take Stokes here.
Take Stokes here. And then, so like, you like Radunes and Carmen, you said, right?
Carmen's a big dude. I like him. Brady Christensen's a good player too. He's old. He's 24 because he went on a Mormon mission before he went into the draft. So he's 24. He's going to be 25, but he's a really solid player. He also has some guard versatility. So maybe if they're looking for a guy that they can kick inside if need be or play outside. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, I'm sure James Hudson is there.
And I like Hudson too. So maybe we take Stokes and then let's just monitor which tackles go. And if we have to move back up,
I feel like at 96, 120, if we could get a guy like Spencer Brown or James Hudson, I think the Patriots, I really trust their coaching staff at the offensive line that they're going to be able to, Hudson coach those guys up.
Right. Hudson to me is that guy. Converted defensive lineman, so he's a little behind, but supreme physical athlete. Yeah. Hudson to me has been
a lot of
this process, their development.
He doesn't have as much experience as Yadni Kajus, but he's kind of the Yadni Kajus.
Right. Okay, so we're going to take Stokes here, though. Eric Stokes, our second pick. So we have Justin Fields and Eric Stokes. And now, okay, so there goes Carmen. So there's one tackle off the board. Ooh, Tampa take. Elijah Moore. That's a good pick.
That's a late pick for Elijah Moore. No way he's on the board so long.
We're still going here. Jalen Twyman. I like Twyman. There's the forfeited pick. And there goes Walker Little. So do we want to move up here and look, tackle? Do we want to try to move up here and get Dylan Radunes? This would be the spot. We have the picks to do it.
So the question is, do we value Dylan Radunes enough to trade up to get him versus just waiting on some of those developmental guys that maybe Carm Bracello and Popovich can just turn into good players, right? That's the question, because last year they take Michael Onwenu in the 6th round and they make him one of the best rookie linemen in the league, So you do have to consider that. Regardless of if Scar is here or not, they seem to still be great at doing that. So
yeah, I'm just a little concerned with the two tackles you have because they do have a history of getting hurt, and I want a guy who's going to be NFL ready. Like I get the upside, and you're not wrong. And maybe we double up at tackle.
The question is, so let's play this forward a little bit, because what they could do then, let's say Isaiah Wynn gets hurt, right, and they are screwed at left tackle, so to speak. They bump Trent Brown over back to left tackle. They kick on when back out the right tackle,
and then we grab a guard later.
No, Ted Karras can go in at left guard at that point.
Who?
Ted Karras.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we don't. The only reason I'm thinking trading up here is because we still need to consolidate picks. We could also trade up and take somebody else.
We could also trade up for a wide receiver, which at this point we haven't addressed. And
let's see who's gone. Tylan Wallace is off the board. Moore's off the board. St. Brown's off the board.
If we really want to make everybody super happy about this mock draft right now, we trade up and draft Amari Rodgers.
Well, hang on a second here. There's Kadarius Toney. Oh,
yeah.
We could take Rodgers. This is probably about right for Rodgers, right?
Yeah, that could be about right. Justin Fields, Eric Stokes, Amari Rodgers, and a developmental tackle. That if that's the actual draft in a couple of weeks, then Alex and I are throwing a party.
I just want to see where's the consent. The consensus right now for Amari Rodgers is 81. So this is about right.
So I think that we try to trade up right here and take Amari Rodgers and then get that tackle in the 4th round.
And we're still going to have 120. And this is let's see here. So the 78th pick is worth 59 points. The 2 picks we're giving up, 40 plus 17. Is 57. So this is we're 2 points short, but we'll see if we can do it like this. I think that's fine.
If not, we can throw them
we'll throw in one of those 6th rounders, but let's see if we can do this. We can.
They're loving us tonight.
We're consolidating picks, Evan. We're killing it. All right, so we want to we're going to take a wide receiver. I mean, who else is here?
So Diami Brown's an interesting prospect. Nico Collins. If they want guys that can play on the outside,
we want a slot guy though.
Those guys fit a lot more than on the outside, certainly than Amari Rodgers. But if they want that slot receiver to replace Edelman, there's nobody better in this draft at this point than Amari Rodgers.
All right. I agree with you there. And we're not going to trade up after this. I'll just let it run.
Yeah, we can. What do we have? 120, 170,
120. Yeah. So I'm going to draft Amari Rodgers.
Draft Amari Rodgers, and maybe we can see what happens with the tackles. I wouldn't even mind scooping up another wide receiver in the 6th or 7th round either, with how great this draft is at that spot.
So just to reset, we traded up. We got, who do we take? Justin Fields. Sorry, we traded up. We got Justin Fields. We then traded down, picked up a future asset, got Eric Stokes, a cornerback out of Georgia. And now Amari Rodgers is going to be our 3rd pick.
This is the people's draft right here. This is what everybody else.
Do we just not think this is realistic at all? Or
I think it's definitely realistic, but this is like way too good. You know what I mean?
And we're scheduled to make 8 picks right now. So I would like to move out at some point. Maybe we combine 177 and 188 and move up at some point.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think Radune's he went right after there, 2 picks later. Radune goes. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit here. So we got some time. There goes. Oh, nope. Here we go. There goes Tutu Atwell. Your guy Werner. Oh, we just missed Caden Stearns. Again. We keep missing Caden Stearns with this pick.
All right, let's look at the tackles.
So hang on. I want to pull up a couple of positions here. I want to pull up tackle.
Running back's a good one to pull up.
I'm going to pull up running back, and I'm going to pull up safety because I feel like we always push safety to the last pick. And maybe we should seriously, although it's not a good safety draft.
It's not a great safety draft, no.
Yeah, we do. We have Brady Christensen. I think we took him with this pick last week.
Yeah, so Brady Christensen I like because if they are looking for a guy that can play both guard and tackle, he definitely has that makeup to him. Instead of just somebody that's going to be primarily a tackle. If we want to go safety, and we're maybe a little bit too early right now, but Tyree Gillespie from Missouri plays special teams, plays free safety. Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa also kind of screams Belichick to me because he loves to take those small school guys that are great athletes. Kyle Duggar, but tackle version, basically.
Did James Hudson go? Yeah, James Hudson went.
So Spencer Brown's a really interesting pick here. Obviously, the consensus guy is Christensen, but I don't know. Spencer Brown's 6'8". He's a great athlete. Completely destroyed his pro day. Something like one of the best testers in history based off his pro day number at the tackle position. He's got size. He's got some play strength to him. He's got good feet. He played really well at the Senior Bowl. You know, he's a guy that checks a whole lot of boxes, and he's not as old as Brady Christensen is. So I think that the simulator says we're a little bit too early on Spencer Brown. I don't feel like we are. I think he might actually even go in the
average draft position here, 122.9, and we're sitting here at 120.
I think Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa would be my pick. I'm not as high on Christensen. I think he's a little bit stiff. I think he's a guard in the league. And if they really want to get a developmental tackle, like I said, Spencer Brown is that guy.
So I agree with you. And then I'm just kind of thinking ahead here. Maybe we combined 2 of these 3 picks and move up a little bit and get either Gillespie or Demar Hamlin, who are 2 safeties we both like.
Yeah, Demar Hamlin's somebody that's getting slept on a little bit in this draft.
And I think for the Patriots, a high school corner converted to safety, he's got.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's. But we like. I'm fine with Spencer Brown. I'm just curious. What are your thoughts on Stone Forsythe? They were at Florida's pro day. Forsythe worked out, huge guy, right?
Yeah.
Kind of that big. Now he's not as technically sound, but what are your thoughts on him? Because you just talked about Brown. I don't know that I'd take Forsythe over Brown, but he kind of fits that same mold.
There's a lot of people that I trust in the offensive line community, like Brandon Thorne, for example, who does really great work, who left Stone Forsythe completely off all of their rankings, right?
Okay.
And I think a lot of it is technique issues. I think Spencer Brown's a better prospect straight up. I haven't dug as deep into Forsythe that I have with Brown. Watched a lot of crossover tape, obviously, though, with Tony and Kyle Pitts and Trask, but haven't specifically watched him as closely as I watched Brown. I just feel like Brown, again, it's cliche to say maybe, but small school guy, lead athletic tester, 6'8" frame. You know, these are the things that Belichick, he loves to take these types of guys. He just does.
Right. Okay, so let's do Spencer Brown here. So to recap, trade up and got Justin Fields, traded down, picked up a future pick, got Eric Stokes.
This is looking like our best one so far.
And then we got Amari Rodgers. It's up there. So let's grab Spencer Brown, but we never get the safety. I want to see if we can get the safety. So we have the ammunition to trade up into. So let's see. I want to slow it down and see what safeties go. Richard LeCount. We could have taken him. He's an interesting one, but
yeah, he's a steady safety, right? He's not going to eye pop out at you or anything like that, but he's a steady safety. I feel like Hamlin or Gillespie from Missouri are the two.
Yeah, so we can start trading up. Let me check the trade. We can start trading up at 148. Is where our window opens up. So they just got to make it through these first couple of picks here.
You need safety, so
yeah. Okay, so there are some safety needs here. Now Ellerson Smith, another I think potential Patriot, but we'll see what happens. So I mean, we can kind of wait and see if one goes, or there goes Jacoby Stevens. So let's call the Bengals and see what's up. So
maybe this could be a run at safety.
Yeah, we're going to make it a run at safety. So this should, based on the trade chart, get us this pick. And again, we're consolidating. So if we make this trade, we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll be at 7 picks, which I think is beautiful. I think that's exactly where we want to be. Have we had one trade decline tonight?
No, we're on fire with the trades.
Killing it. Jamin Davis still on the board, as is tradition. So here's the question. Who do we want? Do we want the guy who's maybe a lower upside player, but more ready? I think a higher floor brings the special team element, Gillespie, or do we want to take a swing here and see if we can get Devin McCourty's eventual replacement, which I think that's Hamlin's ceiling. I think he's a ways away from it. He's very raw, but I think his ceiling's tremendous. So do we want to play it safe and get the special teams player, or do we want to kick it into high gear and really go after a guy?
So the question is does at this point in the draft, 149, 5th round, does a player, and I think Demar Hamlin would make the team because he's a good enough prospect, but do they have to have the player at this point contribute in the kicking game, right? Like, does that guy have to project into a role into the kicking game? Because
at this position, they might.
Because there's just not enough roster spots, right? Because you're going to have McCourty, Duggar, Miles Bryant, Adrian Phillips is going to make the team. So that's 4 deep already right there. To carry a 5th safety, the guy's going to have to contribute in the game.
Here's the thing. Demar Hamlin can also play corner. He can play box safety, deep safety, and corner.
And corner. He's got that versatility to him. With his athleticism, you probably could teach him special teams if he hasn't learned it already.
I wonder if he can replace Juwan, if he could give Juwan Williams a run for his roster spot.
So, I think you're selling me on Demar Hamlin. I'm fine with
Am I? Let me look up one thing about Demar Hamlin real quick.
I think he's a little underrated in this draft. I think he's getting slept on a little bit.
So I thought he was like 6'2". He's 6 foot. And it's still big. I guess the other thing too is like if we're just drafting Tyree Gillespie for the special teams, we can get Grant Stewart as a UDFA.
I think the upside where this is an upside draft, right? The Patriots.
This really is. You're right. Yeah.
We took a swing. Justin Fields I think is a ready-made prospect, but a little bit of a swing there. Spencer Brown certainly a swing, on developmental upside. So let's stick with the theme and let's take Demar Hamlin.
So just to recap, we traded up. We got Justin Fields. We then traded down a little bit, picked up a future 3rd. We got Eric Stokes, cornerback out of Georgia. We took Amari Rodgers with our original pick in the 3rd round. What did we do in the 4th round was Spencer Brown, right?
Yep, Spencer Brown.
And this is our first pick since Spencer Brown. I thought we made another pick.
No, I think this is our first one.
You're right. Okay, so this is our 5th pick. It's going to be Demar Hamlin out of Pitt. And we're going to let it roll here. So I just want to see where Gillespie goes. I'm kind of curious.
So now the question is do we try to? Oh, there goes Demetric Felton.
I was going to say maybe we trade up for Felton, but I'm fine letting it roll here because I think we can still get a decent running back, and then maybe we take an interior offensive lineman, and I would call that a success. There goes Gillespie, 164.
What about Kenneth Gainwell? He's Demetric Felton light. He's the second Demetric Felton in this draft.
Jalen Darden, 173. Really?
Your feelings. Sorry, Alex.
Yeah, that there goes Felipe Franks, my guy.
Are we gonna get Kenneth Gainwell here? We might.
Unless he was already off the board. Oh, St. Juiced. Not that we were going to take him here. Sadarius Hutchinson would have been an interesting pick here. So let's look at, because I think we're down, right? We're agreeing we're down to IOL. running
I think
back.
we might have nailed our Aaron Banks pick last.
I think we did. Well, let me throw on the linebackers too.
Yeah, we haven't gone
Davis isn't on the
linebacker.
board. So we could. I mean, some people like Justin Hilliard. They like all the Ohio State running backs. No, you're not a fan?
No. I'd much rather take if Kenneth Gainwell's still here. Maybe he's not here anymore.
Well, Chris Evans is here. Some people really like Chris Evans.
Jermaine Davis is
Jermaine Davis going to go. He's going to be Mr. Relevant. Puka Williams, we took him in the first draft.
Yeah, that's a J.J. Taylor kind of prototype.
Yeah.
A little bit of undersized running back.
No, I don't think. No, I don't see him.
So he probably went already.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back up to the top and let's look at these. I really do like Khalil Herbert. You know, I think he's a guy that's interesting running back.
This feels a little low. I think this is the simulator getting us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair enough. What's going on at linebacker? Because this is the 6th round linebacker is a pretty typical area as well.
Jamin Davis perpetually on the board. We're gonna rule him out because it's not gonna happen. So Justin Hilliard right now, PDF has as the top linebacker.
Derek Barnes is an interesting player.
They do like Purdue.
They do like Purdue. He's a little bit Jawan Bentley. You know, I think he hopefully brings a little bit more athleticism than Jawan Bentley, but I haven't done a deep dive into him yet. But Purdue program, he's got some things to like about him. Another guy that I keep on hearing with the film junkies on Twitter that might be a little bit slept on in this draft. I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate going him here.
So I want to pull up one more position because somebody mentioned it in the chat, and this would just be very them here. Who do we have left for like nose tackles?
Okay. Oh, Bobby Brown is still on the board.
That actually looks about right.
Well, although I don't know. I think that's a weird.
This is the pick here, Tonga.
Tonga's an interesting guy too. Yeah, he had some flashes when I was watching BYU, but I Bobby Brown is the guy that should have gone in like the 4th.
Yeah, he's supposed to be in the 4th. We'll call that the board. I think we start really with Chris Evans. I think Chris Evans is the best player on the board here.
So I don't mind Tonga. That he's your typical plug-in nose tackle. I know Mike Lombardi's talked a few times about the Patriots needing a D tackle in this draft. I hate the D tackle draft. I think it's a really bad D tackle draft. So if it was me, I would just roll with what they have and kind of punt on these defensive tackles. But I don't hate Tonga. I think that's a decent pick at this point.
I mean, you were talking about Barnes before I added the defensive tackles. That might not be a bad pick here.
I like Barnes. PFF does not like Barnes. I don't care. I think that he's a player that can.
So tell me, I'm not that familiar with him. So tell me about the player.
So I think that he's got a little bit of Jawan Bentley to him, but I think he's more athletic, hopefully, than Jawan Bentley. I don't think he was the 3-year captain and all that, checking all those types of boxes that Jawan checked. Not as cerebral, not as smart on the football field right now, but maybe a little bit more athletic upside. Certainly the people that I've heard talk about him don't usually talk about guys that are slow-footed, right? These are people that really do like better athletes. So I would say Derek Barnes is a solid pick here. Very typical Patriots to take a linebacker in the 6th round, right? Instead of linebacker early.
Let's do it then. I'm sold. We'll grab Derek Barnes here. And then I think we're basically going to be between running back and interior lineman with the next pick. I'm fine. You can get, and I trust them to get an IOL as a UDFA.
Yeah, I think that they will. They also got Dustin Woodard back. They
did. You're right. I think that happened since our last mock.
Yeah, so that's a decent get for them to get him back in the fold. So they got Ted Karras, David Andrews, Shaq Mason, Mike Onwenu all under contract.
What did Jamin Davis do to PFF and Jamar Johnson for that matter?
Yeah, both those guys are always on the board. Milton Williams should not be on the board. There's a lot. The simulator gets a little wonky at this point.
All right, so do we want to go with the running back or do we want to go – what were the other positions we were considering? Who's left at wide receiver? Austin Watkins, that's it.
Literally one guy in the simulator.
Do we want to double up at tackle? There's nobody really that stands out.
We could go let's look at the defensive lineman. Milton Williams would be off the board in real life. So it's not
I've heard some good things about Taquan Graham.
I haven't studied him yet, so I'm not sure.
You're out on him. All right.
Not somebody that's typically
do
high.
we want to double up at linebacker maybe?
Riley Cole.
Well, here's the thing. We could take Grant Stewart.
Yeah, Grant Stewart or Riley Cole at this point. Riley Cole is undersized, athletic linebacker that probably projects more as a special teamer in the league. Grant Stewart, kind of same deal.
Right.
So, yeah, we could take.
Have we taken Grant Stewart before? I think we did once. I'm trying to make it so like that we pick different players every time. And I don't know.
I don't feel like.
Oh, we already doubled up on Amari Rodgers.
Right. Well, I love Amari Rodgers, so that's fine with me. I don't feel like we have to go running back. I feel like they can probably get a UDFA running back that's just as good. And
I think Duke Johnson's still a free agent, by the way.
Right. So
I think we go with Grant Stewart. I think, we got the high-end safety there. We sacrificed some special teams ability. Grant Stewart fills the role Cash did last year. And look, he probably ends up on the practice squad, but you keep him on the practice squad if, Brandon King's not really in shape or Matthew Slater retires next year. It's just another body to have. So Grant Stewart, we agree on that?
Yeah.
This would be where, by the way, and actually the last pick too, a kicker would have been interesting, but PFF, for some reason, doesn't let you take kickers.
Yeah,
so this would be an interesting spot for a kicker.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so we're going to go with Grant. Actually, let me check one more position because we have flirted with this concept in the past, Evan, and we've never done it. Oh, there's no more on the board. I was going to say quarterback, but there's literally none left.
Well, we also drafted Justin Fields, so I don't.
Well, you floated the RG3 Kirk Cousins thing.
I did.
All right,
that's true.
We're going to take Grant Stewart.
Let's do it. Let's wrap this.
Let's take Grant Stewart. All right, there it is, Grant Stewart. We'll wrap it up. Evan, if you want to pull this down, I'll pull it up full screen.
Sure. In
a second here. Wait, where'd Jamin Davis go? Hang on. Jamin Davis went really close to Mr. Irrelevant, 250.
I don't know.
So there you go.
I don't get it.
All right.
Whatever. I don't know.
I'll give me a sec. I'll pull this thing up.
Murph telling us that we missed on Demetric Felton. We were close. We almost had Demetric Felton, I think, in the 5th round or something like that.
So they're covered. Like Caden Stearns, I still want to take. We missed on him. Richard LeCount. Were guys we missed on. There was a receiver we just missed too, but I can't remember who it was.
We did?
I thought so. Maybe not.
Okay. And a couple people in the chat mad at us for missing out on Jalen Twyman.
Twyman is an interesting way. If you want to talk about because the thing with Adam Butler is Adam Butler was such a rare player. That's what makes him so hard to produce. It's so rare you get a guy with that build and that skill set. Jalen Twyman could be that guy. I think Jalen Twyman might be suited better than anybody else to be that guy. Now, you're going to have to get him in the top. I think, in the top 120. I don't know that the Patriots will use a top 120 pick on a guy who's going to be a situational player. But Twyman's a really good, good on the Pats fans because that's a deep name, but a good name to know. So informed Pats fans there talking about Twyman. Yeah, I should have this up by the way.
High upside player. I did a report on him. You can see it in my spreadsheet. Certainly a very aggressive player. I wonder if he is a little bit out of position in this scheme, though, right? Is he really a 2-gapping defensive tackle? No, he's a pass rushing defensive tackle. So I guess if they were going to take him, then they would have to put him, like you said, in that Adam Butler type of role. So, yeah.
And I think he's going to go too high to.
Yeah, the other name that was mentioned really quickly was Paris Ford. Paris Ford's not an
NFL. Is my brother? So my brother's a Pitt grad. I don't know if he has his people in the chat or what, but the Pitt people are all over the place today.
Yeah, someone said Paris Ford. Here, Paris Ford, great tape, no doubt about it. I think draftable tape, 100%. Ran a 4.9 in the 40-yard dash at a pro day, which is usually a situation where it's propped up, not the other way around, right? And I think he's going to be UDFA. I don't think you make it. I don't think you get drafted. Paris Ford.
You think Paris Ford's going to be UDFA?
Did you see his pro day?
Yeah, but it's just his pro day. The guy's a great player. He was supposed to be a first-round pick a year ago.
You're going to draft a safety with a 4.9?
If they get whatever team gets him as a UDFA, I think hit on it in that hybrid role, that new hybrid role, like what Adrian Phillips is doing. He's going to star in that.
But I mean, unless you truly feel good about it, or if you have some sort of chip in his shoulder pads or something like that or whatever, to record time and speed and figure out that the pro day was nothing. If he runs that at the combine, if he runs a 4.8, 4.9 at the combine, he's on UDFA at safety. You can't.
I think some team will turn him into a linebacker. I think that he has an NFL future. It's concerning. You're not wrong. It's concerning, but he's too much football skill, I think, to not end up somewhere in some way.
Yeah, just too slow to play safety in the NFL at that speed.
Right. We want to talk about the draft. The guys we did take.
Yeah. Let's
pull this up because I'm proud of it. You might be right. This might be our best one. I actually have all 4 of them queued up. You want to scroll through them real quick? I can scroll through them real quick here.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if they're in order. So here's our first draft, which actually started out pretty similar.
Similar-ish, yeah.
This is a very similar draft. This is our second one, which 2 picks in common with this one, but still arguably our worst draft.
Yes.
Here's 3. This is the one we did last week. That one felt pretty good.
Semi-realistic, although after today, I feel a little bit better about the Patriots maybe taking a quarterback in the first round.
Okay. And then here's the one we just did.
Best draft, by far.
I mean, so how realistic do we think it is?
I don't think it's completely out of the realm if Justin Fields actually does slide.
Right. So assuming that the Fields hate is real, and I'm not saying it's justified or anything, but assuming it's real and teams actually have these questions and he is going to fall out of the top 5, going from that assumption, how realistic do we feel like this is?
I would say let's put it on a percentage scale, 100% realistic. I think this is 65% realistic.
Okay.
I do.
What don't you like? Is it the trades? Is it picks? You think we got guys too early? You think we got guys they wouldn't take?
I still think Justin Fields is going 3.
Again, aside from that, assuming Fields falls to 7.
I actually think that they might take all these guys. I don't think any of this is bad. I think that they could take all of these guys. So I'm not really saying that any of these guys are. I don't think any of the guys that we took tonight. I mean, who knows about the 6th and the 7th round guys?
Stewart, I'm like locked in on for that.
Yeah, but I don't.
Him, I know about more than anybody else. I get what you're saying.
That let's look at the premium picks. So the guys that we took the top 150, let's call it. I think Stokes, Rodgers, Brown, and Hamlin will all be on their board.
Okay,
100%. I think all of them will be on their board.
I mean, I agree with you there. I think I love Stokes for them. Again, I think there is a little bit of J.C. Jackson in him. I do see that, just the athleticism again. And I think that he's like J.C. Jackson, a great player. He started. I don't know that he was. I think Stokes at this point in the process is a better player than J.C. Jackson was at this point in the process. And I know that's not breaking news. One's a projected borderline first-round pick. The other's was a UDFA, but I'll throw that out there. Amari Rodgers, if they want to go with the slot receiver, he seems like the balance of talent and value and versatility.
Yeah, the reason why I'm so high on Amari Rodgers for them is because they have guys that can play inside, right? Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, certainly Jacoby Myers. Even the tight ends can play slot, technically, right? The problem is that they don't have anybody on their team right now where you can put the ball in their hands behind the line of scrimmage and watch them run with it, right? Who's going to do that right now? Who's their scheme touch guy? Who's their end-around guy? Maybe they feel like Nelson Aguilar or, I guess, Jonnu Smith in certain ways.
I mean, we talked about Jonnu Smith kind of being that guy, right?
Yeah, I think so. But is he truly? He's not a burner in the open field. He's just a physical, speed specimen, right? They don't have anybody there that can really pick up yards after the catch or create in space with the ball in their hands. And that's why I'm really high on Amari Rodgers. I also think Amari Rodgers could go in the backfield, run routes at basically like a pass-catching running back if they absolutely had to. He worked out at running back a little bit at his pro day, did some running back drills. He's built like a running back. He reminds me so much of Deebo Samuel. I think they're the same player. And maybe that's some of it is me kind of revisionist history looking back on it and saying, I wish they had drafted Deebo Samuel, so let's make up for it by drafting Amari Rodgers a bunch of times. But I really feel like that space player, that yak creator, that ball in their hands type of guy, they don't have that on this roster right now. And I think Amari Rodgers is that dude.
A good point in the chat. You can get that with Jalen Darden. I'm higher on Darden than Evan is. But I conceded Amari Rodgers for this mock, even though we already took him and we hadn't taken Darden, but whatever. So I think Amari Rodgers just is that balance of all their buzzwords, right? Versatility, value, and then he just has the natural ability. So I like him. Spencer Brown, he just, I mean, you explained it a lot. Just a big guy. He's a big guy. He's a lot of raw ability to work with, and they make the most out of those guys. And with Hamlin, it's kind of the same thing, but I'll stress the versatility. He came out of high school as a corner. Pittsburgh moved him to deep safety. Then he played some box safety after Paris Ford opted out. He's a really smart football player. The reason and this is true for a lot of the Pitt players, by the way, their defense was like odd this year. And you watch guys individually and you think, why is this player doing that? That's a weird thing to do. And so you kind of hold it against the player. But when you watch the defense as a whole, all of the players are behaving oddly to the point where it has to be the coaching. It has to be that just there were weird calls. So I think any of the Pitt defensive players, you're going to do well in this draft. And I think Hamlin, again, we're getting a guy who's going to be a defensive wild card for them. But I think the upside, there's potential starting free safety. I don't know that he's going to be as good as Devin, but I think he could be a legitimate starting free safety in this league.
I think we could maybe think that he could get to Duron Harmon status.
Like, sure, absolutely. I think he could be a little better than Harmon because he's got his arms are so long. He's just the build. His build is great, and he's going to be able to compete for jump balls with some of these bigger wide receivers.
Yeah, so I feel like we did really good tonight. I think this is our best draft. I said 65% in terms of would the Patriots do this? Do I think it's a 65% chance that Justin Fields falls to 7? I think it's a 0% chance that Justin Fields falls to 7.
We're pushing beyond that and going with this narrative that's out there that NFL teams are not super high on Justin Fields.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Patriots would entertain the trade that we made up to Justin Fields for 7. I'm even more confident that they would do something like that after talking to Bill Belichick today about basically what was getting at was tiers. They work in a tiered system in the draft where they're going to have Justin Fields in the top tier, and then they're going to have Kellen Mond in the next tier. Kellen Mond might be somewhere in third or fourth round for them, right? So if you're not taking Justin Fields at 7 or Mac Jones at some point in the top 10, 15 picks, then you're going to see a huge drop off. And I think that's what Bill was talking about today, where, it might be worth it for us to go up and get the quarterback a little bit just because after the top 5 guys, there's nothing there. Right. And that's, right. I don't think he was saying that directly. I'm saying that's what I'm looking into it. And
that's how you're reading it.
Yeah, that's how I'm interpreting it. So I would say that that's really a question there of where do the Patriots rate? And we've had this conversation a million times, Alex. Where do the Patriots rate Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones relative to where they rate Kellen Mond and Kyle Trask and Davis Mills and Jamie Newman? If they
I think that the question also has to be, how far is the gap between Jones, Lance, and Fields? How far is the gap between those 3 players? Right. Because maybe they have Jones relatively close to Mond, but the gap they have between Fields and Jones is massive. And after what Bill said today, I'm kind of buying that. I think we're going to take Lawrence out of the equation. I think Fields is their number 1 realistic quarterback on the board. And I think they have a pretty sizable gap between him and then Mac Jones and Trey Lance. So
I do. No, I would agree. Right. I mean, not necessarily with Trey Lance. I think
that's nothing groundbreaking. But again, so maybe they look at which gap is bigger. And if the gap between, say, Fields and Lance is bigger than the gap between Jones and Mond, then I think that plays in favor of them going up and getting Fields. And I think that gap is bigger. I think the gap between 2 and 3 is bigger than the gap between 5 and 6.
And that's the buckets that they put these guys in, right?
Right. Well, so I'm curious if you agree with that. Would you say the gap between 2 and 3 is bigger than 5 and 6?
No, I think because I think Trey Lance has such a high ceiling in the league, right?
Oh, sorry. No. 5 and 6. So between Jones and Mond.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I really feel like they're going to look at this draft as Justin Fields in his own tier, Trey Lance in his own tier, Mac Jones in his own tier, and then the rest of the garbage, right?
So I guess how far is the gap between Fields and Lance bigger than the gap between Jones and the garbage?
No.
Okay, I think it is for them.
Okay. All right.
And that's why I think it would help them trade off. I'll let you finish your point.
I know. I feel like with Trey Lance that he's got so much upside and so much potential in this offense because of what he can do under center that I really like his projection into New England's offense. Now, at the same time, I do feel like Mac Jones's fit here maybe a bit overblown. Like I think that there's some great cerebralness in the pocket. Certainly, he does all the little things: good footwork, good timing, good rhythm, good accuracy from the pocket. All those things are very true, but I don't know where the upside is with Mac Jones. Where's the untapped potential with Mac Jones? If they could take Mac Jones at 15, I think maybe they would entertain it, right? But they're not going to trade up for him, I don't think. So but that's really how I view it: is Justin Fields in his own tier, little gap Trey Lance, gap Mac Jones, big gap the trash. Right. Okay. And yeah. That's how I don't mean to be cruel about saying the trash, but you know what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, it's not like that's literally the sixth quarterback's nickname or anything.
Right.
So like some people probably thought you were saying Trask and maybe their internet connection spotty or whatever.
My sixth quarterback's Kellen Mond. So
that's true. Yeah. You couldn't be saying that, but
I'm in a different category here, but I really love the draft that we just had.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like after the conversation, and listen, when Belichick's asked certain questions, they're pointed questions. He's going to answer the question that was asked. So who knows if he really has these serious conversations about moving in the 7 to 8 range to draft a quarterback. But he didn't rule it out today. Yeah. He certainly didn't rule it out. So I
feel better about it today. Sorry. I was just going to say, I feel better about it today than I did before. I don't think it's a lock by any means, but I feel better about it today than I did.
Yeah. Because he didn't rule it out. And in years past, when they've been picking at the back end of the first round, he said, look, we're not going to trade up to the top 10. He's literally ruled it out. He said, we're not going to do this. Right. And this time around, he said, yeah, we've had conversations about, let's say we have a guy that's rated, 6th, 7th on our board, and he starts to slide a little bit. When do we start having those conversations about calling people for trade ups? He said that today. And he didn't rule it out. So they're at least talking, I think. Look, maybe they're talking about Micah Parsons. Maybe they're talking about Patrick Surtain. I just can't imagine that those conversations are non-quarterback related. And on top of all that, just to wrap this up, again, I want to reiterate the 3 guys that he mentioned and Matt Patricia. But let's talk about the 3 guys that he mentioned again: Dave Ziegler, Matt Groh, Elliott Wolf. Those 3 guys have all seen Justin Fields throw in person at this point at one of the 2 pro days. And then in the second time around, Ziegler took Josh McDaniels with him.
Yeah.
That's very telling to me. That's as much as you can read tea leaves with the Patriots, and maybe it is a smokescreen because they like another quarterback or they like a position player and they want everybody to think they're on quarterback. Who the hell knows? But when you bring the offensive coordinator and the assistant director of player personnel to go to a private workout for a quarterback prospect, that's telling you something. That there's got to be at least conversations being had at one Patriot place about Justin Fields. There's no doubt about it.
I agree. At the very least, they think he's possible. I'd say maybe they're just going so much because and this has been ruled out since, but in the past they used to heavily scout quarterbacks because the other 3 teams in the division are always picking quarterbacks in the top 10, and they scout those guys to get a look. We know the Jets aren't taking Fields. Right. Miami's probably not. I know kind of some people have, maybe to his hip, blah, blah, blah. But it really feels like they're doing this for themselves. And they've, like you said, they've at least seen enough where Josh, I feel like calling in Josh McDaniels, that's been a big step. It's like, we feel like this guy's a fit. Let's get the guy who would actually make, the decisions of how he'd use him in to get a closer look. I think that's a big step.
Let's get the chef there to see if he can work with the ingredients, so to speak. And the other element of this too is Mike Lombardi went on one of his podcasts or appearances today and said that 98% of the league thinks that the Niners are taking Mac Jones at 3 overall. And for me, and look, they could be just messing with all of us just to kind of get a laugh, but they know Lawrence is going 1. Lawrence already has the Jaguars playbook in hand. He's going 1. Like he already can, right? Then number 2, the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson. So what are the some reason? What are Niners smoke screening? What are they smoke screening? Right? Like what are they?
They're going to flip the pick again.
Maybe they're going to flip the pick. Maybe they're going to take Kyle Pitts. I don't know. But what are they doing? Why are they trying to do that? Like, why are
Maybe
they
they're just being weird to be weird?
Right. That's the only thing you can think of. John Lynch, a former guy that used to work in the media. Maybe he just wants to see Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and all of us just go crazy thinking that they're going to take Mac Jones and then surprise us all on draft night. It's definitely possible, but I at least think that the Patriots have had conversations about Justin Fields. I think we can confirm that all now without actually confirming it based off of the way that they have worked over the last couple of months with him. Could be a troll job. You're right. Could be a troll job by the San Francisco 49ers. But still, for right now, you got to at least, these are the exercises that Bill Belichick admitted the team is having. What if one of our guys starts to fall? When do we start to have those conversations about trading up? We went in, we took Justin Fields, love Stokes, Amari Rodgers, and Spencer Brown, and Demar Hamlin. I think we nailed all those picks. Really fun time with this mock draft tonight. Hopefully, look, if the Patriots actually have this draft in, 2 weeks from tonight, right?
Yep.
If the Patriots actually have this draft in 2 weeks from tonight, I think I'm doing cartwheels in Charles.
This would be a champagne-worthy draft. Real quick, can I tease what we're going to do next week? Because I've been looking forward to next week's draft. So next week, we're going to do it a little different because we've done so many of these, right? And then we'll be back the Tuesday before the draft and do our final mock. We're going to do rapid fire next week. We're going to try to fit however many drafts in we can. And I have some ideas, Evan. I just want to run by you and by the people, and they can tweet them at us if they have any other ideas. Here's the drafts I want to do next week. Conference draft. So we can only draft players from a specific conference, like all SEC draft, all Big Ten draft, etc. We have to alternate offense and defense. So whoever our first pick is, let's say our first pick's a quarterback, then we have to go defense. Then we have to go offense. The whole point of this is to challenge us and still come up with a good draft. We can only draft players from schools that have players currently on the Patriots roster, or the inverse of that, which might be more interesting. No players from schools currently on the Patriots roster. So no Alabama, no Michigan, no Georgia.
There's 78 guys on the roster. How are we going to do that? I said
it's a challenge. I said it's going to be a challenge. And then the other one, and you might like this one. So that what's the site that's been posting they have like the overall grade of the physical tests? You know what I'm talking about?
Math Bomb.
Yes.
Relative athletic score, RAS.
Yeah. So what if we did a draft where we only take players who tested in, the top, whatever that top level, the upper echelon of the athletic score?
We grabbed one tonight in Spencer Brown.
We grabbed one, but what if we had to do? What if we limit ourselves to that for all the picks?
Sure, I like that. Interesting. I like that. I also like the all Senior Bowl draft that our friend Joe T threw out there.
We could do that. That was my first mock draft I did. I also had a March Madness schools draft.
That's a very Patriot draft to go all Senior Bowl guys. So.
A nightmare draft. That could be interesting.
A nightmare draft because we did that last week when we traded down and took Zaven Collins.
That's true. We also can't do that because we can't take punters on PFF. So we need another simulator. But if you guys have ideas, shoot them at us on Twitter. Like I want to try as many as we can get in next week. I think we'll have some fun. The one I really want to do
have fun next week. So this is the time to have it. I know people tease me for not being the fun one. So
the one I really want to do, and you like this, I want to do a non-Power 5 draft.
All right.
And see what happens with that.
Year. So this year that you can draft Trey Lance. We
can get Trey Lance, Dylan Radunes. I won't spoil it, but we might be able to roll with that.
Spencer Brown's non-Power 5 guy. I mean, there's a ton of non-Power 5
Well, guys. We could also maybe do a non-D1 draft.
Yeah, you could take Jalen Darden in your non-Power 5.
You're right. So we'll next week's going to be fun. Tune in next week. We're going to have a ton of fun next week. Bunch of names. We're going to talk about a bunch of players. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on Tuesday, Alex and I will be back with the regular pod. Usually we do about 30 minutes of old school podcast formats, whatever's the new thing going on, whatever the news is that we want to talk about. And then in the second half, we'll do questions and we'll take a lot of your questions. And so Tuesday show Q&A, live Q&A after the 30 minutes or so of Patriots talk and see what's in the news. Thursday, fun mock draft. Following Tuesday, the Tuesday before the draft, that's when we're going to do our last official mock draft, going and putting our Bill Belichick caps on and trying to see what we can do that Tuesday. So again, if you wanted to look at the draft, Alex and I will I'll throw it up real quick here as we sign off. We will post it on Twitter, and you can have at it in the comments on there as well. But thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate it, and we'll have some fun with you on next Thursday and Tuesday. Come and join us for that live Q&A. Thanks, guys.